Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video I want to talk about search and renting an apartment in Germany. How it is different from renting an apartment in Ukraine, and also what are the specifics that actually surprised me. I would have never thought that something like this exists when you apply to rent an apartment. If you watched my previous video, you may know that when the war in Ukraine started, we were in Germany, and that's why we decided to stay here. And of course, we would need a place to live. For the first few weeks, we stayed at the place that the acquaintances of one of the family members provided for us, and that was so nice of them because it really saved us back then. But we already started looking for apartments. In Ukraine, if you want to rent an apartment, then you would go to websites that have listings of the apartments for rent, look for something that you like, that meets your requirements, and after that you can actually make an appointment with the real estate agent or the owner of the apartment. And then if you like the apartment, if everything works for both parties, so for you and for the landlord, you can actually already sign the rental agreement and give the deposit for the apartment, which is usually 1 month rent, and actually pay rent for the first month. And then you can actually get a key and can move in. That's how it works in Ukraine, that's how I know it, and that's how I thought it should be. But it's not like that in Germany. The first thing that surprised me most while we were looking for apartments in Germany is how much information you actually have to provide about yourself just to apply for an apartment. We found a few apartments online, and for some of them, even before we could have a look, we actually had to provide a lot of information about ourselves. For example, where do you work, who is your employer, how much you earn, sometimes bank statements. A thing that exists in Germany and called Schufa, which is your credit score. And the thing with that Schufa, with your credit score, is that if it's ruined, then your chances of getting an apartment are close to zero. We were also lucky here because my husband has residence in Germany, and also he has that Schufa and it's positive, and also he has a bank account in Germany, and upon request we could actually provide bank statements from the German bank. In the beginning we actually found a perfect apartment. It was spacious and sunny, and it was in the new building with a terrace, and it was really nice, and we were already excited about possibly living there. So we had a look at the apartment, and then the real estate agent asked for the documents, for the information about us. After a few days we got a reply. We actually were declined, and it's not because we didn't have enough money or couldn't pay, but because the landlord doesn't want the tenants to work at home. It was really surprising, and especially because we are working home office, we're working on our online business and have few YouTube channels. But after that, after we got declined, a relative from my husband actually told us that in this same village, in this same area, a few years ago, there was a scandal because one girl was working at home and making videos at home for OnlyFans, and the landlords were not happy. So probably we shouldn't have mentioned in our application that we're having YouTube channels and making video at homes. But we didn't know that. So we didn't get that apartment, which is again was surprising because in Ukraine nobody cares what you're doing at home. I mean, unless you're committing crime, of course, but if you're recording videos, and especially when you apply to rent an apartment, nobody will ask you if you're working at home and not. But it is what it is. After that, we actually looked for 3 more apartments. In one of them, we liked the apartment, but somehow the real estate agent didn't contact us. Maybe she decided that we wouldn't fit for the landlord and didn't want to proceed. For the other apartment, they needed much more time to make a decision who will live in that apartment, and we didn't hear back from them for a week or so. And at the point when we already got yes from the last apartment that we had looked at, they still didn't decide who will live in that apartment. So we just proceeded with the 4th apartment that we had looked at, that we currently live in. What else surprised me when we were looking at the apartments is that most of the apartments are actually rented out empty. That's not the case in Ukraine. I mean, sometimes you will find empty apartments, but it's so rare. In most cases, you actually get an apartment with at least bare minimum of what you need to live there. For example, the stove, the oven, the fridge, the furniture, like bed and couch, and usually TV. So if you're looking not for the cheapest apartment, but something in the middle range or something pricey, then it definitely will be with some electronics, so like microwave and then oven and TV set, and sometimes even few TV sets like in the kitchen and in the living room. And in Germany, a set is not like that. I have mixed feeling about that, because in Ukraine, when you move into the apartment and it already has furniture, you may not like it. And you yourself may have furniture from your previous apartment that doesn't fit into the new apartment. And then you have a headache what to do with all that furniture. On the other hand, here, when you move into the empty apartment, you actually have a lot of things to buy if you don't have them from your previous apartment, and see how you actually organize it. And for us, it was actually bad, because we decided to stay in Germany because of the war in Ukraine, so we didn't have any furniture. We actually don't have anything to live in the apartment. That's why having at least a bed and a few desks would be beneficial. I mean, we already got all that we needed to start living in the apartment, but it was really weird. And also, we got lucky that our apartment was already with a built-in kitchen, because in most of the apartments in Germany, you actually don't even have a kitchen. And then you have to spend a couple €1,000 for getting a kitchen. So the essentials for the kitchen were already there. And the landlord also was kind enough not to ask money for the kitchen, because it's also common that if you rent an apartment and the previous tenant bought the kitchen and they don't want to take it into their next apartment, you actually may pay a couple €1,000 for getting that kitchen. Next thing that was surprising is that the deposit for the apartment is actually not 1 month of your rent, but it's 2 or 3 months of your cold rent, how it's called. The cold rent, or Kaltmiete, would be just the payment for the apartment without utilities, and there's also another term called Warmmiete, or warm rent, if I translate literally. That would be the cost of the apartment with the utilities, but on top of that we separately pay for the internet connection and for electricity, and also radio tax. So the apartment search in Germany requires a lot of paperwork, unlike in Ukraine. And that's great if your paperwork is in order, because otherwise your chances for getting an apartment are really low. I believe we partially got lucky to get this apartment because landlords usually prefer people who are employed and, in their opinion, have stable salary. And we are both self-employed, and also our legal entities are not registered in Germany. And I guess our landlord just had a bit of sympathy to our situation, and that's why they decided to give the apartment to us. A few things that were interesting or curious for me, because I didn't know about them. After we moved into this apartment, we actually had to sign up with an electricity provider. You can choose from which provider you want to get your electricity. You can choose based on the price, based on how stable they are, how great the feedbacks are, and also from which sources they produce the electricity. Also, we had to change the name on the postal box, which is not common in Ukraine, because in Ukraine you have the building, then the number for that building, and the number for that apartment. And here we have a small house with 3 floors, and you only have the number for that house. You don't have numbers for the apartments. And on the mailboxes you just have the last names of the people who live in those apartments, but not the numbers. And another thing that we did after we moved into this apartment is get an insurance for the household and for the house content. Something like this doesn't exist in Ukraine, and it's a very interesting topic, I guess, and it's also something that's beneficial for the people who have those insurances. But I believe I will make another video about insurances that you can get besides the health insurance, of course. So that's it for today. That's how our apartment hunting went, and we're really happy that we found a new home here. If this video was interesting, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in my next videos. Bye bye!